Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the annual university address. And for the guests among us, welcome to Wayne State University. This weekend, Saturday, is homecoming. October the 5th, you're all invited. We'll be playing Northwood University. Kickoff is at noon at Adams Field. And of course, you can come earlier than that if you want to participate in the tailgate activities. The third thing I'd like to tell you about is 2 weeks from Saturday, October 19th, is Undergraduate Open House. This is where we introduce prospective students to Wayne State University. If you know prospective students out there, encourage them to come. They'll be able to see the campus from 9 o'clock to noon. If you want any more information on that, you can go to wayne.edu. So the program today is real simple. I'm going to introduce the president of the Student Senate, who will introduce the president of Wayne State University. President Wilson will make his remarks, following which I'm going to submit some questions to him. We've had a lot of questions come in from online through the RSVP, so thank you for that. When the program is over, there are refreshments right outside the back doors. Help yourself. Now I'd like to introduce the president of the Student Senate. Adhem Al-Jami is an honor student majoring in... He's majoring in... I didn't know he was going to do that. He's majoring in theater, shockingly, and political science, and which is an interesting combination if you consider the acting going on in Washington, D.C. these days. Adhem is an entrepreneur. He has his own startup company. He enjoys helping students get involved both in Wayne State and the city of Detroit. Please welcome a fine, young, interesting man, a great student and president of Wayne State University Student Senate, Adhem Al-Jami.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Adhem Al-Jami, political science and theater student. I know it's a little redundant, but like he said, it's very kind of interesting with what's going on today. It's an honor to introduce Dr. M. Roy Wilson, the 12th president of Wayne State University. Dr. Wilson assumed the presidency exactly 62 days, 23 hours, 15 minutes, and 33 seconds ago. And since then, he quickly stopped introducing himself, shaking hands, petting dogs, and kissing babies, and went straight to work of introducing himself, shaking hands, petting dogs, and kissing babies. Prior to joining Wayne State University, President Wilson was at the National Institute of Health. And prior to that, he served as Dean of the School of Medicine and Vice President for Health Sciences at Creighton University, President of the Texas Tech University Health Science Center, and concurrently, Chancellor of the University of Colorado Denver and Chair of the Board of Directors of University of Colorado Hospital. President Wilson also has chaired the Board of Directors of Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science and was acting president during part of that time. So from all that experience and from my observations since Dr. Wilson stepped into office, I know he's arrived at one conclusion, that no matter what university you're in the end, we're all here to serve the students. For without them, none of us would be here. You see, the students are in a sense like customers in a business. And as you and I both know, the customer is always right. So when we say we need free parking and free printing, we aren't joking. On a more serious note, President Wilson has spent an unprecedented amount of time with students, faculty, and staff. Whether he's hanging out, handing out ice cream during move-in, attending a football game, or eating dinner with the Student Senate, he always makes the time to listen to everyone, letting us all know that he's here for us. Now, I don't know if he's lucky to have us or if we're lucky to have him, but I do know one thing. He's definitely the correct man for the job. President Wilson.
Thank you so much, Adhem. I don't think I could beat your entrance, however, maybe 40 years ago. Well, good afternoon, or good morning, as the case may be. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for the very, very warm reception that Jacqueline and I have both had here during our last 2 months. I want to acknowledge a couple of board members who are here. I believe that Paul Masseron is here, and Sandra O'Brien is also here, I've heard. Oh, there you are, both right here. Thank you very much. They were partly responsible, in fact, predominantly responsible for my being here today, so I have to thank them every opportunity I get. In the past, I understand that this university address was primarily for the campus, but today I've asked others to join us, our alumni, our neighbors, donors, members of the community, and government. We did this because we appreciate your support and your participation, and in one way or another, we all have a stake in the success of Wayne State University. We're in this together, so I'm glad that you're all here. I want to start by reading from a letter I wrote when I formally applied to be the president of Wayne State University. Now, just to set the context, the letter was dated in January of 2013. Usually, when university presidents, there's a search for university presidents, it usually happens in the fall, the prior year of the academic year. And I had received a number of inquiries for looking at other university presidencies that fall, but I wasn't interested in any of them, and I said no. And part of the reason is because I was very satisfied at NIH, and although I felt that at some point I would probably go back into university administration, the time just wasn't right at that time. And it probably in many ways was worse of timing. But in January, I did get a call from Wayne State, and for some reason, Wayne State was different for me. I want to read you part of this letter because I think that it very vividly personifies why I believe Wayne State is different. So, ultimately, I desire to lead a university with the following attributes as essential: comprehensive, urban, public. Because of my familiarity with research development and funding and with medicine, highly desirable attributes include high research activity and presence of an academic medical center. Wayne State University satisfies these institutional characteristics and is well poised to take its place among the very top tier of urban-serving public research universities in the country. Yet, one of the most attractive aspects of this presidency is the sense of mission and purpose of the university. I believe that public urban research universities have a critical and obligatory role in contributing to the economic vitality and improved quality of life of its surrounding community. As the first in my extended family to be educated beyond high school, improving access to quality higher education is a deeply held personal conviction. To lead an institution that is, in no small way, defined by these values and commitments, while also unwaveringly committed to excellence and to the pursuit of excellence, will be a rare opportunity that may not present itself for many years. To lead such an institution to even greater prominence will be a dream fulfilled and a capstone to my career in academic leadership. So each one of these attributes that I mentioned is important to me, and I think each defines Wayne State. But the combination of all of them makes Wayne State what it is: something unique, something special, in fact, something extraordinary. So what I'd like to do is delve into each one of these a bit, explain why it's important to me and why I think it defines Wayne State. Comprehensive, public, urban, research, academic medical center, community. Before I start, though, allow me to share with you my general impressions of the faculty and the students. This is impressions I formed over the first couple of months. I believe that the faculty are extraordinarily committed and talented. Many, if not all I've met, care deeply about the university and wish to contribute to it becoming one of the great institutions of higher education in this nation. The students are no less committed and willing to play their part. They are remarkably diverse in every sense of the word, and it's been particularly enriching for me to have had an opportunity to break bread with Jewish students from the Hillel Center one week and then participate in a cultural celebration of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with another group of students just a few weeks later. That's what a university is about, and I feel particularly fortunate to be a part of such a vibrant and inclusive university life. Early last week, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with the editorial board of the Detroit Free Press. One of the reporters, in trying to describe Wayne State, says something about it being a bit of an outlier. Not quite University of Michigan and Michigan State on one sense, but not quite Western and Eastern Michigan in yet another sense. I politely steered him toward another word which I think has a different, more fair connotation: unique. The combination of attributes mentioned earlier is what makes Wayne State uniquely Wayne State. So let's go through each. Comprehensive. Wayne State University has 13 schools and colleges and more than 350 programs of study. With a couple of exceptions, students can choose almost any academic course at any level. That has certain advantages, especially in a time of exploding information growth that demands coordination and collaboration across disciplines. However, undergirding this comprehensive offering must be excellence. Comprehensiveness for the sake of comprehensiveness is nothing to be proud of, and we must make sure that all of our programs are grounded in excellence. And if a program isn't, we need to either change it or stop offering it. Grounded in excellence, a comprehensive university offers students tremendous opportunities to be well-educated citizens of the world. Students need to understand how DNA and RNA function, understand the principles of supply and demand, understand how government functions or currently doesn't function. But they're also incredibly enriched by appreciating Picasso, by experiencing the genius of Shakespeare, and by loving to read just for the pleasure of it. Academic Medical Center. Partly because of its budget and research productivity, the medical school is extremely important to the university. I hope that my knowledge and experience with medical schools and teaching hospitals is value added for the university. From my initial assessment, I would say that the medical school, the medical complex, and the university are not optimally aligned. We need to address this issue. Among other things, I've asked the dean of the medical school, Dr. Valerie Parisi, to be a member of my cabinet. The cabinet meets weekly. Major decisions are made at these meetings, and the voice of the medical school, the practice plan, and teaching hospitals must be a part of the discussion. But the reason I wanted to lead a university with a medical school is a selfish one. I love academics to its core. With the many administrative leadership positions that I've held, one thing has always been a constant. I was always a faculty member and took great pride in continuing to contribute to the academy. And as of Friday, September 20th, when the Board of Governors met, I am now officially on the faculty of Wayne State University with the School of Medicine as my academic home. But it's not all self-serving. I hope that my strong identification as a faculty member will provide the perspective necessary to make better decisions on the behalf of the university. Research. As someone with a research background, and most recently from the NIH, I value research immensely. Research is a big part of Wayne State University's identity. We enjoy a Carnegie classification as a national research university with very high research activity, a distinction shared by less than 4% of this nation's higher education institutions. We also enjoy, along with the University of Michigan and Michigan State, being a member of the University Research Corridor. But there are cracks in the veneer. Our research productivity, as measured by grant funding and expenditures, is headed lower in contrast to the situation of both of our research partners. This trend must be reversed. And we will reverse it by utilizing every strategy possible, including supporting our research faculty through strengthening core facilities and facilitating transdisciplinary teams, by holding non-productive research faculty accountable as outlined in the recent collective bargaining agreement, and by recruiting new faculty who are thrilled with the discovery of knowledge and the translation of that knowledge. The opportunity is there. We have an incredible resource in the perinatal research branch of NIH and in the Carmanos Cancer Center, the new multidisciplinary biomedical research building, the strengthening of our affiliations with our hospital partners, particularly Henry Ford Hospital and its research capabilities, the presence of the auto industry and the many partnership possibilities with the College of Engineering. Also, we have the ideal setting in Detroit for research to shape and lead the urban agenda in healthcare, sustainability, housing, and transportation. We must seize the moment and have the discipline to do what must be done to move research forward. Public. To me, a public university represents a higher sense of purpose than does a private one. As a public institution, we must be responsive to the state's needs and be accountable to the taxpayers to ensure that their dollars are well spent. 2 points I would like to make in this regard. The first, Michigan, as is true of many other states throughout our country, is increasingly concerned with the workforce and is increasingly expecting its public universities to train students with specific skills that are sought by the workplace. We must rise to this challenge and make sure that our students are able to find good jobs upon graduating. The comprehensive nature of our university, as discussed previously, affords us the ability to respond to the marketplace responsibly. However, we must always be mindful that we are not a trade school, nor do we want to resemble one to any extent. Unlike in the past, the average college graduate will hold 11 jobs in their lifetime, and chances are this number incorporates a career change, or 2, or 3. Many of the categories of jobs of the next decade are not even in existence today. More than ever, the workplace needs people who can evolve with the rapid pace of the world, people with nimble minds and curiosity, and the ability to look beyond what there is to what could be. The greatest public contribution we can provide to the state of Michigan is graduating well-educated students who are critical thinkers, able to function effortlessly in an increasingly diverse world, and who are good civic citizens. That's what Wayne State University is, and that's what it does. The second point, as an institution accountable to the public, our performance is increasingly being measured by various outcome measures. As I've often said, metrics is fine. Let's just make sure we have the right ones, the most important ones. I recall being a candidate for the presidency of another institution several years ago, in which they had a very explicit goal of increasing their national ranking by a considerable amount. Most ranking measures, and they included these measures, include things like selectivity of the students, the 6-year graduation rate, even how much money students earn after graduation. But many of these measures can be gamed. For example, you can increase your graduation rate by not accepting at-risk students. You can ensure that your graduates earn a lot of money by focusing on recruiting students who desire to be engineers and doctors, and limit the numbers who wish to teach or pursue the arts. That's not what I'm about, and that's not what Wayne State is about. Several evenings ago, I had an opportunity to attend an evening gala for our law school. It made me proud to meet so many alumni who were public servants and advocates of justice and equity. That's not by accident. I learned that it is what our law school stands for and promotes. That is Wayne State, and that is what our state needs. That is what our society needs. Urban. We are an urban research university. What's special about that? Well, let me tell you a story. It happened just 2 weeks ago. I was at a meeting in Ann Arbor of the business leaders for Michigan. It was a retreat. And Mary Sue Coleman, the president of University of Michigan, was our host, great host. And during dinner, she proudly displayed a video. The video was about how the University of Michigan was facilitating their students experiencing Detroit, mainly through internship opportunities. Now, I don't fault her, by the way. I think it's terrific. University of Michigan is a great university, and they should be offering their students the opportunity to learn and train in Detroit. But it's not just University of Michigan. Ask yourselves why other universities are trying to establish a presence in Detroit. It's because they're trying to give their students something very valuable that they can't offer on their campuses. The experience of living and learning in the modern-day urban world, because that experience provides a deeper education, one that combines the theoretical with the practical and makes students more ready to contribute and succeed into the world in which they graduate. Many of you have heard about land-grant universities. Well, the Morrill Land-Grant Acts were signed into law in the mid-1800s and allow for the creation of these land-grant universities. Michigan State is one. The purpose was to promote the liberal and practical education of the industrial classes. These acts were created in response to a political movement calling for the creation of agricultural schools. These schools offer programs were at the time vital to the country's well-being, including agriculture and military tactics. These were areas of growth, even revolution. But the times have changed. Our landscape has shifted. Economic drivers have changed, and agriculture is no longer predominant. In 2011, for the first time in nearly 100 years, the rate of urban population growth outpaced suburban growth. People are moving back into urban cores. More than 3/4 of Generation Y plan to live in an urban core. They're returning because of the excitement, the connectivity, the convenience, the diversity, and the opportunity. If we were to start a political movement of our own today, we would call for the establishment of urban grant universities, because that is where the 21st century is headed. This is where our revolution is taking place. It is now time to focus on an urban agenda with the many health, economic, and educational challenges confronting urban communities, and that responsibility falls squarely on the shoulders of urban universities like Wayne State. We hear from companies that hire Wayne State graduates that our students are better prepared for the world of work. Part of the reason is that many of our students are already in the workforce. They're already in the world of work. But part of it is that we are surrounded with opportunities to experience the world as it is. Other universities offer a semester in Detroit. We offer every semester in Detroit. Our students don't need to take a shuttle to get to experience real-world urban challenges and the excitement of being a part of the solution and addressing them. They're right smack in the middle of it. Community. Wayne State has had an inextricable bond with the community of Detroit since 1868. At the heart of Wayne State University is a legacy of access that goes back to the institution's roots. If you were Jewish in the 20th century, early 20th century, you couldn't go to Yale. And if you were a woman, you couldn't go to a lot of universities. But Wayne State will welcome them. Couple this with the understanding that Detroit, at the turn of the century, was one of the most diverse cities in the nation. The city had a high proportion of immigrants and first-generation families, along with a solid Jewish community that had been present since the 19th century. After World War II, the African-American population grew considerably in Detroit, as did the Arab-American population in the Detroit metro area. Throughout its long history, Wayne State has been welcoming to all and has been the university of choice for Detroit's often marginalized populations. Furthermore, Wayne State has, for a very long time, been a place that was friendly to people who were working full or part-time because of Detroit's strong work ethic and culture. Wayne State University must continue to be the home of the sons and daughters of native Detroiters in its metropolitan areas. We've stuck by them for 150 years, and they've stuck by us. Yet, students from out of state and out of country greatly enrich the educational environment and university life, and we should, and we will, increase their numbers. The two, however, are not contradictory comments. Wayne State has a national and international reputation. Accordingly, we must increase the numbers of out-of-state and international students, but not at the expense of students from Detroit and Michigan. Our enrollment has dipped in recent years. We have room to grow, and we must do so. Engagement with the community is also evident in our tangible investments in Midtown's resurgence, by the public safety we provide, the incentives we provide for people who live in Midtown, by financial commitment to the M1 project. Finally, engagement in our community is evidenced by the many services provided by schools and colleges of our university. Too many to enumerate in this already too long address. I mentioned earlier that less than 4% of universities in the country have Carnegie Foundation's highest research classification. Wayne State is also recognized by Carnegie for its community engagement, with recognition in both categories of curricular engagement and outreach partnerships. Only 6 universities in the country hold both the Carnegie highest research classification and the community engagement classification in both of these categories. So the confluence of all of these attributes makes Wayne State uniquely Wayne State. Let me tell you a story about, I was having an interview with Crane's Business Journal. This was several weeks ago, and Keith Crane asked me a sort of a curveball question, and it was somewhat offensive, actually. He said, you know, is Wayne State always going to be third? Is it destined to always be behind University of Michigan and Michigan State? And I took 5 seconds to think about it, and I told him no. Because you see, that's a false comparison. We're not trying to be the University of Michigan. That's an apples and oranges comparison. We are what we are. We do what we do, and we are going to be second to none at what we do. Our collective vision is bold, to become the preeminent public urban research university in the country. Now, how do we get there? There's certainly no shortage of things we must address. Key among these is the disparity between our substantial research reputation and capability and our underperforming undergraduate educational output measures. To get to where we want to be, we must be focused, deliberate, and very strategic. I will leave much of the details to be worked out through a strategic planning process that we will undertake soon. However, there is one thing that I do know, and I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about that. I've thought deeply about a comment that Judge Damon Keith made when he swore me in as president 2 months ago. He said, "Wayne State is great because it is good. When it ceases to be good, it will cease to be great." Judge Keith was paraphrasing a line that had at times been attributed to Alexis de Tocqueville. I've become convinced that in our quest to be great, we must be good. And I think we all kind of know what it means to be great. But what does it mean to be good? As a university community, we must ask, do our actions and policies reflect a good university? A good university cares about every member of its staff, from the custodians who keep our buildings clean, to the groundkeepers who make our campus beautiful, to the very top level of management. A good university is a good neighbor within the complex fabric of a community, and uses its influence and decision-making authority to benefit all, both the university and the community, rather than taking advantage of one for the betterment of the other. A good university does not make major decisions on narrow considerations alone without also considering the broader implications of these decisions on individual people. A good university celebrates the accomplishments of its faculty and encourages them and supports them to achieve even more. Ultimately, though, it's about the students. A good university takes care of its students. A good university makes them feel wanted when they apply, welcomed when they arrive, supported when they are here, and appreciated when they graduate. Since I mentioned graduation, let's talk about that for a moment. As all of you know, our six-year graduation rate is not good. Our state funding is increasingly being based on performance, and the six-year graduation is one of the main metrics that are used. The federal government is looking at similar metrics. Now, maybe that may be unfair because many of our students, as you know, is not traditional and often, even from the very beginning, know that they're not going to graduate in 6 years. But we're not getting any sympathy on this, not from the state, not from the federal government, not from other Michigan universities, not from anyone. So we need to just own this problem and do something about it. We need to make it our responsibility. Now, I wish to commend my predecessors, Alan Gilmore and Phyllis Vroom, for tackling this issue and making it a priority. I also wish to commend our staff in the Provost's office for their committed work on improving student access and student success. Because of their efforts, these metrics are showing signs of improvement. But it's not just them. Student success is something that we all must hold as our responsibility. A good university does everything it can to make sure that every single student who entrusts their education to us graduates. Every single student. Now, many of our students face multiple life challenges: financial, housing, family dynamics. When they arrive, many face another set of challenges, simply navigating the world of registration, financial aid, and other processes. Now, I'm not suggesting that we be a social welfare agency. We have no control over many of the challenges and barriers that confront many of our students. But we do have control over some things, though, and can make things a lot more student-friendly. I've received many emails from students facing this or that barrier that we've imposed on them that makes it more difficult for them to stay in school and graduate. Look, I understand there are policies and procedures in place, and for very good reason. It would be utterly chaotic if they were not routinely followed. But Do we really have to block students from registering for class because he or she has an outstanding balance of $200 from the prior semester? We have a budget of over $800 million. Can't we be creative and find some way to allow the student to enroll while at the same time be assured that the student will honor his or her financial commitment? Do we really need to hold classes or offer student services at times convenient for us as faculty and as staff rather than what is most convenient for our students? Are we really doing everything we can to assist our students? We must empower our staff to make decisions on behalf of the student with the understanding that we will occasionally make mistakes and maybe even get scammed. But I'd be willing to bet that for every student that scams us, there'll be at least 10 for which we will genuinely help them, usually at no or marginal cost. Now let's care and go the extra mile for them. It's okay to take risks. The potential upside of a right decision is much, much exponentially greater than the potential downside of a wrong decision. I want to tell you about another interview that I was doing. This time it was with the Detroit News a couple of weeks ago. And we're talking about a broad range of topics, including retention and graduation rates and so forth. And one of the reporters said, well, I know you're placing a lot of emphasis on that, and your 6-year graduation rate is low and your retention is low. Do you have a 3-year or 5-year goal on what numbers you want to reach? And I was stumped for a minute because I didn't have a specific goal. And so at the same time, I didn't really want to admit that I didn't really have, you know. So I thought about it for a few seconds, and any guesses what I said? 100%. That's my goal. Because anything less, no matter how high it is, 80% means that there's still 20% there, and when that individual student is in front of you, you can put them in that 20% instead of that 80%, and that's not right. It's the right thing to do because we are a good university. We must take care of our students because we are a good university. But also, in taking care of our students, enrollment will follow. We will have the resources to support our faculty, and we will be heading up the pathway to becoming a great university, the preeminent public urban research university of this nation. Now, after a couple of months on this job, I formed some impressions, and I've shared them with you today. I'm optimistic about the future, but I'm not foolishly optimistic. I know there are miles to go, and there's a lot of work ahead. But I'm up for the journey, and I hope you are too. We will be beginning a strategic planning process soon to guide us on this journey. In the meanwhile, I shared with you a few of my priorities: research growth, embracing an urban agenda, becoming more student-focused, to name but a few. Now, I know that I emphasize student focus hard, and some of you are probably thinking I'm naive. You're thinking that the university is so big that we can't possibly help each and every student. I have a different attitude, and I want to share with you a parable in conclusion. You may have heard of this. So one morning, an old man was walking on a deserted beach. He came upon a boy surrounded by thousands of starfish. As eagerly as he could, the boy was picking them up and throwing them back into the ocean. The older man looked at the young boy and asked, "Little boy, what are you doing?" The boy responded without looking up, "I'm trying to save these starfish, sir." The old man chuckled aloud and said, "Son, There are thousands of starfish and only one of you. What difference can you make? Tossing the starfish into the water, the boy turned to the old man and said, "It will make a difference to that one." So my concluding message is a simple one. Each and every one of you can make a difference, and I urge you to do so. It's been my honor and my privilege to be a part of Wayne State these past few months, and I look forward to many years of working together. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for your warm welcome. And most importantly, thanks for everything you do in supporting this very special university. Thank you. Well, I think that I mentioned in my address today the reasons why I wanted to come here because of those various things. It's a public university. It's urban. It's research intensive. Has a connection to the community. It's for all those reasons, and the confluence of all of those together there's not a lot of universities like that in this country. And then also the opportunity to be a part of something that I think is magical, and that's the transformation of Detroit, and just to be a part of that was a draw also. So all of those things. In terms of the transition, it's been a remarkably smooth one. First of all, everybody has been so welcoming that it's really, I really do appreciate it, and so does Jacqueline, so thank you very much for that. As with any move, it's a process, and we're continuing along in that process, but it's been a very smooth transition thus far.
Thank you. A number of questions about tuition, about the tuition increase from last year, and what are we doing to reduce tuition?
So I've asked this all the time, particularly by the newspapers, and I say the same thing with all of them. I think that the tuition increase was justified this time as a one-time measure. As I look at our budget and the things we're trying to do, there's no way we could do some of the student services things that I think are important that we are doing now that without having had that tuition increase. However, I don't think that we can do this as a way to fund our system here. Historically, tuition has been very low here, and we're still a very good value. But to clearly answer that question, it's not a responsibility just of the university. It's also a state responsibility. And if you look at the amount that the tuition has been raised over the past 10 years or so, you can see that it's in direct proportion to the rise in tuition is direct proportion to the decrease in the state funding. My arm.
Can you do that again?
Yeah, I don't think I can. Yeah, I need Adham here to it's in direct proportion, and it's like that all over the country, but certainly at Wayne State, it's very, very evident. And so, we can't do it again as a way to continue to fund the university. We have to get the state legislation on board. We got to get the metrics changed so that things like Pell eligibility becomes part of the metrics. You can't measure output, 6-year graduation rate, without looking at the input. It just doesn't make any sense. So there are a lot of things that we need to do in order to get the state legislature on board. We've got to do better with philanthropy. We're going to have to do that, and our research productivity has got to go up. So it's a combination of all of those things.
Great, thank you. A couple of questions about the medical school. Do you have any special plans for the medical school?
I'm president of Wayne State. I'm not dean of the medical school. I think Valerie Parisi is here somewhere. Yeah. So that's a question that would be appropriate for her. I think that we've got a wonderful medical school. I think it's well led. I think we've got great faculty. I'm privileged to be a part of the medical school. Thank you, Valerie.
What can former graduates do to help the university?
Yeah. So, we have a lot of alumni in Michigan. I think it's 245 total alumni, and about 75% live in.
245,000.
Yeah, 245,000. and 75% live in Michigan. So we have a wide geographic variation also of where these alumni are placed in Michigan. One of the problems is that we have had some difficulty getting our message to the state legislature in terms of the importance of Wayne State and the importance of Detroit. When you live somewhere in the Upper Peninsula and that is your constituency base, it's hard to relate to what's going on here in Detroit. But they are, our alumni constituents in all of these areas, whether it's in the Upper Peninsula or Eastern Michigan or Western. I still don't know all my geography yet, but we have alumni all over. And so I think that our alumni could be much more active in advocacy, for Wayne State, and I think that we can help them in terms of doing that. Spreading the word, just spreading the word. This is a great university. Students are going to be well cared for here. We want people here from the community to, think about us as the university of choice again. It's always been that from 145 years ago. There are a lot of competition now, but we should continue to remain your university of choice. We'll take care of students.
Thank you. What have been among the most pleasant surprises or experience you've encountered since arriving in the metropolitan Detroit area?
Two. One serious and one a little bit more frivolous. The serious one is I've actually never worked with unions before, and I was told to expect this and that, and it's very difficult and blah this and that. But I know it's only been 2 months, but I will have to tell you that I think the people I've met with who are part of these unions care for the same things that I care for, and so far it's just been a good working relationship, and I don't see that it's going to be a barrier to achieving what needs to be achieved at all. And I just didn't know what to expect, so that was a bit of a very pleasant surprise for me. The second, which is just more personal, is that I love to eat, and so does Jacqueline. And I lived in Bethesda, and there's more restaurants and per capita area in Bethesda than anywhere else in the United States. And when you look at all the national press, you think you're in a food desert or something. And I had no idea the quality and variety of food, not only in Detroit, but then you have all these neighboring areas just within 20 minutes of Detroit. So it's really been from a cultural and a personal quality of life standpoint, much, much, much better. In fact, it's been great.
Great. So I'll end with what isn't really a question, but a statement that came in online. Best wishes for much success and much needed time.
Thank you very much.